Welcome to another episode of Music Pro Musings with Danny J. Lewis. Now, in this episode, I'm going to talk about something which may feel a bit kind of abstract to start, but hopefully it's going to make some sense by the end. Now, I'm speaking into a microphone, which is a device that essentially takes my voice, converts it into an electrical signal, which is then turned into a digital version of that sound. So the whole purpose of the microphone is to convert one form of energy into another and then allow it to be, in a way, copied and distributed in different ways. So you'll be listening back to a digital version of the recording, and which is then generally going through the analog process of converting that into sound waves from headphones, So transducing is the process of converting one form of energy into another. Now, I want to kind of go back a bit more in time, before these kind of electrical transducers. Way back, there were people who used to essentially try to change the properties of metals, turning lead into gold. Also trying to create immortality, elixirs of life. They were a group that worked in secrecy, and they were known as alchemists. So I want to talk about this. And one of the things that I think is very, very important for us to understand as creators of music is that in some respects we are the modern equivalent of alchemists. And sure, you can study music theory. You can learn the notes and the scales and learn different keys and so on. But behind every single note is a frequency. As human beings, we hear sound in the range from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And that range is 20 hertz is super, super low frequency. If you've ever been in a club and you've really felt that real warm, low bottom end, that's those sub-frequencies. A lot of people would argue that we can't hear 20 hertz. And in fact, most speakers cannot play 20 hertz. If you've ever been to the Valve sound system, allegedly their system goes down to 10, but this is custom-built speakers with custom-mastered audio to be able to play down that low. And this is super low frequencies, but equally we hear up to the ultra-high frequencies. So 20 kilohertz is incredibly high. If you've ever generated a series of test tones, and this is something that I used to do at Point Blank to illustrate this range of frequencies, you would hear a sine wave going from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. It's a very, very, it's enormous in terms of its range, and it goes incredibly high. So most people are going to struggle to hear things above 16K. So as human beings, we hear sound in that range, but equally there would be sound that exists outside of that. And yes, there are limitations with digital audio because things like the sample rate dictate the range of frequencies that can be heard. But I'm kind of going around the houses here, and what I'm saying is that when we make music, we create sound that is then absorbed by other human beings. And this can influence their feelings. It can change behavior. So, as I said, in some respects, we are the modern day alchemists. We are not working with chemical solutions to get results. We are dealing with plugins, sound design, effects to create end results. And these results are listened to in different environments. And I don't know, most of us have been in a scenario where we'll be somewhere, there will be something going on, and when the music plays a certain tune, it can trigger reactions. For some of us, those reactions will be memories. We'll remember things that happened around the time when we heard those songs or pieces of music. For others, it could be instantaneous. There are certain kind of chords and progressions that can instantly, for me, arouse feelings. And when they're combined with something else going on, they're incredibly powerful. And every one of us as a human being will have certain sounds that we kind of lean towards and that we're attracted to. It's the same with kind of melodic aspects as well. And there is, I believe, a power in this music. And it has in some respects, it's yes, you can study this stuff. Yeah, you can understand, all of the theory with regards to music theory. But then, do you really, really know why it will make people feel what they feel? And in some respects, this is a mystery. But perhaps somewhere, somebody knows exactly what's going on here. And of course, there are lots of theories about sound and how it can affect things. You've seen demonstrations possibly where the the sound is projected into water, and you look at the reactions of the water. The sound can affect things. It can make things move, at certain frequencies. Some people, remember the adverts of the glass where the opera singer sings, and there's a certain frequency that hits that cracks the glass. Now, that may well be a work of fiction, but there are some kind of practical, real-life examples of the sound influencing physical objects. So there really is a sense of a power. And if, for example, you had the ability to run around with a power tool in a space where there are lots of human beings, you just wouldn't do it, right? You'd be really careful because you could accidentally injure somebody. So in some respects, we could accidentally influence somebody with what we're doing. And we're never going to know what that is, right? And I don't think ever intentionally those of us who make music are deliberately trying to provoke a reaction. Although there will be some styles of music that generally are quite anarchic and deliberately so because they want to try to encourage some sense of disruption, So I just think there's no answer here at all. It's just something to consider. And that when you're making music, yes, you're generally making it for yourself, and there's no agenda as such, but just understand the power that you have. I've seen, and it's incredible to see this, I've been in clubs over the years where I've seen reactions from people to my music, and it's amazing as a creator to see that, but then equally to know that in a way you're a puppet master in a way. Your work, the recording that you have made at one point in time, that composition as well, is then influencing the behavior of people. It is remote controlling them to a certain extent. And it's very interesting. I've got kids, and my youngest is a big fan of this K-pop Demon Hunters thing. And I watched it. I was very interested, actually. There was a scene where there's a boy band, and there is this idea of demons controlling the boy band and influencing young people to take a kind of journey to a dark place as such. So I think it's a really interesting metaphor, in that, large groups of people, when they're together watching stuff, can be influenced in particular ways. It doesn't always end up in positivity, and it can be because it's a performance. It could be how people are actually dressed, how they're acting, what they're doing on stage, etc. These can all provoke reactions. But equally, the music is very much part of that. It's very much an ingredient in that powerful end result. And, on my previous episode, I talked about the power of sync. It's a combination of music and visuals. So here, absolutely, the visuals do often make a difference. But I know for sure there's certain music that I enjoy listening to, and not even necessarily something that I know, something that I listen to for the first time. If I'm in a room with nothing else, if I'm in the dark, if I'm listening on headphones, I still know that music alone has the power to affect me. And there have been a couple of albums that I've listened to, and they've really blown me away, and I have been emotionally affected by what I've heard. Absolutely. And so it's incredibly powerful. And yes, we're entering an age where technology is possibly going to start to bring new insights that haven't existed before. So maybe we will begin to understand scientifically what happens when we're affected by music. So all I'm going to say here just to end is really just understand, if you're a music maker, that you are wielding potentially incredible power, and just to do so with respect. I think that's probably the great way to kind of look at it and think about it. Not everybody cares, but I do. And I think, yeah, it would be great if others did care. I think it would just kind of find its way into the music somehow. And yeah, so yes, we are, as music makers, modern day alchemists.